I'm Annie Foerster, minister here at First Jefferson Unitarian Universalist Church.
And I am Reverend Dr. Aija Duelm, and I'm the interim director of religious education here. I'm glad you are here and not trapped in this home in the 2 feet of snow.
I agree. We didn't get anywhere near 2 feet, but we did get a taste of what our neighbors to the north and east and get every year at this time, only deeper and for a longer period than we experienced.
Where I come from, in Latvia, the winters are certainly much colder and snowier. They have had snow since November or October this year. And it's more normal than here. But I have lived here long enough to feel a little bit nervous about snow and ice when it gets here. We don't have all the equipment that's necessary to maintain the roads and things around here, and we can't handle snowstorms with that ease.
Yeah, that's my experience as well, having grown up in Chicago. I love the first snowfall of the season, but after that, the romance is gone, and the rest is just work and worry.
And since we have made it here today, I want to remind everyone that the day is a potluck Sunday, and visitors and members alike are invited and welcome to stay after the service. There's usually enough food for everyone. And I also have an important announcement to add. We might have lots of them today. Who knows?
Yeah.
But we'll get to the potluck, I promise you. There's an announcement about childcare, and you may have seen our weekly email. I asked to put that announcement in there, that we need help with our nursery care. Christina LaQuiz have been making sure that our children in the nursery are taken care of every single Sunday, and we very appreciate her work for this. But we cannot continue that way for much longer, and we need help for her. So we are asking if you would like to volunteer at the nursery, or we're considering hiring nursery care workers too, but it has to be somebody who is not a member of this congregation, because we cannot pay our members. That's our bylaws. So if you know someone, let me know. I'm the contact person. Just contact me through the email or other ways, through the Carl office or something.
Okay. And before you go into Coleman Hall for the potluck, stop by the name change table to look at the names that people are suggesting for our future identity, and to make your own suggestions if you haven't done so. And I have an announcement from David Bindi. He will also be out in the lobby there. He's doing a fundraiser for the Flower Fund, and he's selling Valentine gifts after the service. Do you have something else?
I do.
Go for it.
Today, we have the first youth game day of the year. Yay! Jillian is putting a lot of work into it, and their youth are gonna have fun.
Is that going to be after the potluck?
That is, yes, after the potluck. So whoever is the youth here, go through the potluck, get something to eat, and then go to the game day.
Where?
Play. The youth room, we kind of have designated youth room to be, was it Adam's room?
Okay.
I think so, yes.
Ooh,
That's
lots
right?
going on
That's
today.
what we want it to be. And then next week we will have some fun about love, some Valentine's Day related activities after the worship service in hallway somewhere here. So come and have fun. It's more like just activities, no big commitment.
Okay, I'm glad the snow went away. We would have hated to miss all this. So let us begin this morning's worship with music. Nisha?
our call to worship this morning comes from Sylvia Ho's words, "We bid you welcome." We bid you welcome on this first Sunday of the new year of the Tiger.
Like Janus, we gather with part of us looking backward and part of us looking forward.
We gather on the edge of the new year, saddened by our losses and cherishing our joys, aware of our failures and mindful of days gone by.
We gather on the cusp of this new year, eager to begin anew, hopeful for what lies ahead, promising to make changes, anticipating tomorrows and tomorrows.
We invite you to join our celebration of life, knowing that life includes good and bad, endings and beginnings.
We bid you welcome to this year of the Tiger. And please join us by singing our opening hymn, number 298, "Wake Now My Senses." This is one of my favorites. Please stand as you're willing and able.
The things to do have been done. Well, for the most part. Maybe I should say it again. The things to do have been done well for the most part. The people we need are in place, almost. We are ready, or as ready as we will be.
So bless this most perfectly imperfect beginning. May we find the right people to do the right things as we go. May we discover that what we needed was right here all along. And may we remember to stop and marvel at the magic of each moment as it floats by.
And please join me in the affirmation. That's why we're still standing if we're able to. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another.
Please be seated. I have 2 questions this morning, and they are this. What would you bring forward from the past to strengthen your resolve? And the second is, what would you look forward to that you are ready to expend energy on?
Well, we have story for all ages today, and I asked Jillian to come forward up here to tell the story for us.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Okay. Stop. The book is called The Big Orange Spot. Mr. Plumbean lived on a street where all the houses were the same. He liked it that way. So did everyone else on Miss Plumbean's street.
Just a minute. There are pictures that go with this story.
They will come later.
Oh,
they will
come later?
They will come.
I'm sorry, I
They will
anticipated
come.
too quickly. Read slowly.
He liked it that way. So did everybody else on Miss Plumbean's street. This is a neat street, they would say. Then one day, a seagull flew over Mr. Plumbean's house. He was carrying a can of bright orange paint. No one knows why. And he dropped the can, no one knows why, right over Mr. Plumbean's house. It made a big orange spot on Mr. Plumbean's house. Oh, too bad, everybody said. Mr. Plumbean will have to paint his house again. I suppose I will, said Mr. Plumbean. But he didn't paint his house right away. He looked at the big orange spot for a long time. Then he went about his business. The neighbors got tired of seeing that big orange spot. Someone said, Mr. Plumbean, we wish you would get around to painting your house. Okay, said Mr. Plumbean. He got some blue paint and some white paint, and that night he got busy. He painted at night because it was cooler. When the paint was gone, the roof was blue, the walls were white, and the big orange blot was still there. Then he got some more paint. He got red paint, yellow paint, green paint, and purple paint. In the morning, the other people on the street came out of their houses. Their houses were all the same, but Mr. Plumbean's house was like a rainbow. It was like a jungle. It was like an explosion. There was the big orange spot, and there were little orange spots. There were stripes. There were pictures of elephants and lions and pretty girls and steam shovels. The people said, Mr. Plumbean has popped his cork, flipped his wig, blown his stack, and dropped his stopper. They went away muttering. That day, Mr. Plumbean bought carpenter's tools. That night, he built a tower on top of his roof, and he painted a clock on the tower. The next day, the people said, Mr. Plumbean has gushed his mush, lost his marbles, and he slipped his hawser. They decided they would pretend not to notice. That very night, Mr. Plumbean got a truck full of green things. He planted palm trees, baobabs, thorn bushes, onions, and frangipani. In the morning, he bought a hammock and an alligator. When the other people came out of their houses, they saw Mr. Plumbean swinging in a hammock between 2 palm trees. They saw an alligator lying in the grass. Mr. Plumbean was drinking lemonade. Plumbean has gone too far. This used to be a neat street. Plumbean, what have you done to your house? The people shouted. My house is me, and I am it. My house is where I like to be, and it looks like all my dreams, Mr. Plumbean said. The people went away. They asked the man who lived next door to Mr. Plumbean to go and have a talk to him. Tell him that we all liked it before he changed his house. Tell him that his house has to be the same as ours so we can have a neat street. The man went to see Mr. Plumbean that evening. They sat under the palm trees, drinking lemonade and talking all night long. Early the next morning, the man went out to get lumber and rope and nails to paint. When the people came out of their houses, they saw a red and yellow ship next door to the house of Mr. Plumbean. "What have you done to your house?" they shouted at the man. "My house is me, and I am it. My house is where I like to be, and it looks like all my dreams," said the man, who had always loved ships. "He's just like Plumbean," the people said. "He got bees in his bonnet, bats in his belfry, and knots in his noodle." Then, one by one, they went to see Mr. Plumbean late at night. They would sit under the palm trees and drink lemonade and talk about their dreams. And whenever anyone visited Mr. Plumbean's house, the very next day, that person would set about changing his own house to fit his dreams.
No, there's more.
Whenever a stranger came to the street of Mr. Plumbean and his neighbors, the strangers would say, "This is not a neat street." Then all the people would say, "Our street is us, and we are it. Our street is where we like to be, and it looks like all our dreams." Ta-da! Yay!
Thank you, Jillian. And now you're asking, what is that crazy minister thinking now that we've got to repaint the church and everything's going to be all right? Right now, yeah, you can sit back down again because right now want to introduce somebody else. Every first Sunday of the month, we have Light on Leadership, and today our new board president, Roy Brake, is going to tell us his ideas of leadership and what he does at the church.
Good morning. My name is Roy Brake, and I currently serve as your president to the Board of Trustees. Let me give a little history about myself. I first attended First Jefferson in 2003 after Christina Lukey asked me to join her. Now, I was raised non-denominational, non-practicing, and I had my own reservations about church. Would I be judged for what I believed? How would I be perceived for what I did not believe? So Christina and I arrived, and I remember the building because I had voted here years earlier. I used to live in the neighborhood. But I'd never seen the sanctuary. I'd never heard the sanctuary. Now, exploring the building and the grounds, I met new people that were glad I came. There were people who were busy making coffee, preparing for the service, greeting people at the door. I felt welcome, and I wanted to help too. On my second visit, I asked if there was any help needed in the kitchen. It was potluck. Now, for those who know me, the rest is history. But it became much more. I attended newcomers classes that summer and answered questions about faith I had never asked myself before. Feeling welcome and connected to a community, I did not hesitate to become a member that October. The journey does not stop there. Volunteering in the kitchen helped me interact with others. Luckily, due to name tags, it helped me put faces to names, which was very helpful. It increased my self-confidence. I learned who was on what committee and who was doing what. I witnessed more efforts of others making a difference. I heard phrases I didn't know. What is you bar you? The kids are going to Boston? What's the service auction? I joined a committee. We marched in a pride parade. We won a second trophy. Now, I could not possibly condense all the joy and challenges from the past 8 years just into a few minutes. Participation has helped me learn not just about others, but about myself as well. Volunteering renews my hope. Service is my prayer. I know that making an effort is better than not. Speaking of effort, I'm looking forward to reading more suggestions to rename our covenantal home. Keep them coming. In accordance with our fifth principle, we will follow a democratic process within our congregation to vote on that name. Our new name is deserving of a renewed vision, and I believe our relational covenant is how we will find it. That promise we make to one another is what allows us to light a candle and not curse the darkness. Now, the past board, I'd like to thank Paul Shatman, our past VP, Guy Thornton, member at large. Oh, I'm forgetting another one. I knew I would. I'd like to welcome Colleen Brewer, a new member at large, and Rosalind Hunter, our new vice president. We have a great team and a great congregation that will support us. We are currently planning on an upcoming stewardship campaign. We are also reviewing our pre-COVID goals and how to best progress towards them now that we are still in the pandemic. We want to help the congregation review our mission statement and develop a new vision statement in conjunction with that name change. And finally, we want to ensure a smooth transition to new leadership as we gratefully thank Rev Annie for her guidance and wisdom.
Thank you, Roy, and thank you for stepping up for this role. It's time for the offertory. This morning, you have received your pledge confirmations from the last year, which means that if I read the calendar correctly, it is time to think about the next year and what your pledges might be like for the next year. In the meantime, you may continue to share your pledges either online, by check, or in the offering. And any money that is not designated for the pledges, we divide it, that amount, with an organization or a community effort that the church supports. And this quarter, we are giving the money to repair the church's playground. And this is not just for the safety of our children, but also for the participants in the Sudbury School that meets here during the week. And educators at the school, Sudbury School, are participating in the repairs and redesign, so they're putting a lot of work in there too. So as the greeters pass among you this morning, please be generous.
Thank you, Misha. Thank you all. Well, you know, this isn't just the first Sunday of the Year of the Tiger. So many things happening on this day. This is also the birthday of my brother and choir mistress Veray Thornton's brother. I thought that was a wonderful thing. But this is also the anniversary of the Sunday 3 years ago that I became your minister. Before that I'd been, thank you. Before that I'd been the minister for about 4 months. Now if that's confusing or if you'd forgotten or you weren't here at the time, just let me give you a brief explanation of what went on. I came at the invitation of the Worship Arts Committee to do pulpit supply after your previous minister left in October of 2018. Now, pulpit supply is just that, filling the pulpit one Sunday at a time, nothing more. And I had agreed to 3 Sundays a month until you found a new minister because I was retired. But here's what really happened, what always happens in situations like this in church. First, you saw a minister. And then, when I kept reappearing, you began to see the minister. And you started consulting with me, asking me questions, asking me to do things. And I thought, why not? I was just standing there by the door when I wasn't standing here in the pulpit. So the board said, well, if you're going to answer the questions and do the more, well, then we're going to give you an additional stipend. Okay. I was enjoying myself. I was getting to know you, and you were getting to know me, and there even began to be some hugging. Remember when we hugged? Yeah. Then came January 2019, a new year, a new board, and they asked me to come to the board meeting, and they said, we haven't found a new minister yet. We're not sure we have enough money to look for one. What do you think we should do? They asked. Well, I said, stroking my chin and looking wise. That had to be what did it. You need help in growing, and you need help in becoming financially stable, I said, and you need a plan. And then suddenly I felt I was back in my early days, the 80s and the 90s, if you can believe it, where I was trained as an extension minister, a minister that helped churches create plans, a plan to grow and a plan to become financially stable. And I don't remember how the conversation went from there, but on February 1st, 2019, I became your half-time contract extension minister with an agreement to stay for 3 years. That means, of course, that my contract was up last Sunday. For the next few minutes, I'm going to tell you why I haven't yet said goodbye. I'm still here. Well, we had a rollicking good year in 2019, and by the beginning of my second year, February 2020, we were signing up members by the handful, and we were seeing relief in the financial area. And we had plans in place for children and youth, for adult education, for outreach, for building maintenance, for an intern minister. Remember that year? The intern minister. For small groups, for large goals. And everyone was on fire. Everyone was working hard. Ideas flowed like lava. Nothing could stop us. And then came March of 2020. And then came COVID. That story continues later. But first, let me go back to that rollicking good year. What I did those first few months of the contract was ask you what you wanted from your church. That's always the beginning of a plan. I think I asked first, what scares you? And then I asked, what do you dream about? We called them rain thoughts that Sunday. I asked what scared you. Here are some of the things that you mentioned. Attendance in general. Visitors don't come back. There are leadership gaps. We don't know what the future will bring. We have low enthusiasm. Yeah, we were concerned. So we jumped ahead. We looked ahead. Dreams, we called the future wishes that next Sunday. As many adults with non-gray hair as with it. I think that's a great goal. Cultural diversity. Families with children. 1 or 2 new members who are millionaires. I mean, dream big. More diversity in music. Be more lively and be more fun to be with. Rename the church. Yep, it started as early as that. Bring committees together to work as a whole, not as separate pieces. Renovate the parlor. Well, that dream came true after the nightmares of last year's ice storm and broken pipes that ripped out the parlor walls. But it came true. Bring back dinners for 8 or 9, programs for everyone, increase community involvement, a paid DRE and a paid membership manager. Woohoo, check, check. To have the church be known in the community as a beacon for justice and civil rights. To be known as the people who show up when support is needed. Those were your dreams. I hope they're still your dreams. We were beginning to achieve some of those dreams, to lull some of these fears into submission. Who knows? Who knows what might have happened if it hadn't been for COVID? You could make yourself crazy asking that question. You will never know what might have been had the road you didn't take been open to you. Here's what I try to remember. We had enough enthusiasm, support, and interest when COVID hit to create an alternative church. We didn't die. We began to stream our services, have our meetings by way of Zoom. We did not panic. We did not fall apart. And I heartily commend all of you on that. We have not lost as much as we might have, considering the world in which we found ourselves almost 2 years ago. Last fall, just before we opened again, the board and I agreed to extend the 3-year contract through June to give us more time to regain our balance, to see what was left and what we might do with it. And that's why I did not say goodbye last Sunday. We've gotten through the worst of the storm. Fingers crossed. We are back at the shore. The parlor has been rebuilt, and so has our determination and our enthusiasm. Now later, Reverend Aija will tell you about the strides in religious education we have taken in spite of us losing our DRE recently. And after that, we will tell you what we might expect during the next 5 months and beyond. But for now, I'm going to ask the choir to tell you what it means to consider that road not taken. I have a reading before we hear from Aija that's called The Road We Travel Together, and it was adapted from Nick Cable's writing. He said, I've always had a tough time falling asleep. As a child, I was skeptical about the whole idea of sleep. I thought, who needs it anyway? Can't we just be awake all the time? Isn't that what life is all about? So it is not surprising that when my new mother-in-law asked me a few years ago whether I was a morning person or a night person, I responded simply and with great enthusiasm, I'm a people person. I love being with people in religious and secular contexts, participating in the fun, the social justice, the community service activities. There is always something meaningful to be done. Sleep, on the other hand, has always seemed like such a waste of time. A third of our lives right down the drain in a state of lethargic inaction. However, as I have grown into a young man, I realize that something magical happens in the time just before and during sleep. We are offered a rare opportunity to sort through the noisiness and distractions of our lives, to arrive at a place where we can hear the silent prayers of our hearts and of the world. And I believe it's in this silence before sleep that we are able to touch the most authentic piece of our identities and of our dreams for the future. We live in a precarious time when our identities and dreams for the future are clouded by the half-fulfilled, half-crushed dreams of past generations. We are bombarded by warring expectations about how we should live our lives and what we should do to benefit the social order. However, among all of my experiences with friends from school and work, from church and my neighborhood, I see a pattern in these dreams and deep prayers. Our dream is not just to take Robert Frost's road less traveled, but to proclaim that this is the road we must travel together. We dream and pray for a new way of being in relationship with one another. Both in our churches and in our communities, we engage with locally, nationally, and internationally. We are reimagining the kind of world we seek to create together in the 21st century. We are the dreamers of dreams that have been passed down for millennia, dreams that affirm an eternal belief in a world that is yet to be created, but is surely emerging around us every day. We have faith in a world that celebrates the diversity and sacredness of life and works toward the liberation and happiness of all. We are engaging in the important conversations about how our identities as individuals and as a faith community must ignite in us an urge to dream a little bigger, pray a little louder, and cherish those few moments before sleep when we can touch the divinity within our hearts and in the world. I think an amen is due there. Amen.
Thank you, Annie. Some time ago, after a difficult experience that didn't go the way I had intended it to go, a colleague of mine gave me a picture frame that said, "Dream big. And if that doesn't work, dream bigger." This picture came to my mind when I was listening to Annie, Reverend Annie, sharing your dreams. These are some big dreams, and just made me think you are the dreamers of dreams that Nick Cable mentioned, or he calls Unitarian Universalist that way. Well, I have joined you on this road towards fulfilling your dreams that you share as a community. Today is about a middle between my saying hello and goodbye to you. I'm here just for a time. And when I first came in, I met with the board and I met with the RE committee, the religious education folks, and they were all telling me the dreams that you have for the religious education program. But before I tell you these, I first want to tell you a little bit about why I agreed to take on this temporary position. And this is a story about my experience. As many of you know, I was born and grew up in Latvia, and it was during the time that Latvia was occupied by a Soviet regime. And during that time, free religious expression was prohibited. Most of the churches and its ministers and members were persecuted. In school, I was taught that there is no God because the communist astronauts had traveled all around the space and had found none. Well, to my 8-year-old self, this argument sounded quite convincing. And one day I decided to help my grandmother to learn and become enlightened. So you see, she was born way before the occupation. She had had only 4 years of education. She could read, but she couldn't write. And I spent all my summer breaks, my school breaks, with her in the countryside. And I often heard her mention God just in passing. So one day, as usual, my grandmother mentioned God in passing, and I took on my first theological debate. Well, my arguments about the existence and non-existence of God did not convince my grandmother. Instead, I began to wonder about the possibility of God's existence and what God would be like if God really existed. This conversation was so meaningful to me that it moved me forward to explore further religious and spiritual things and eventually become a minister. Such is the power of grandmothers. And I wonder if you had a grandmother who shared with you something about the world, about religion or spirituality that made an impression on you. Do you recall your first conversation about theological matters that were meaningful to you and made an impact for the rest of your life's journey? Maybe it was someone else and not your grandmother, but someone from your childhood who cared about you so much that you cared about them back, and whatever they said made you curious enough to explore more. For the most part, we no longer hold true things that we believed as children. We may have moved through life exploring different understandings of how the world functions and what is our place in the midst of it all. Somehow we ended up Unitarian Universalists. And the thing is, we still continue to learn and change our understandings and perceptions of our faith and of the world. And that is the beauty of our faith. We are committed to continue to learn and grow in our faith. So this is why I believe religious education is an important part of who we are. And this is why I accepted this temporary position here. There are children and youth among us here in this congregation, and they might be having their most life-changing conversation with one of you. Just think about it for a moment. Because this is not just a dream, but reality. You are shaping our children and youth. And this is why you carry dreams for religious education. And these are not small dreams. Let me tell you some more about them, the ones that I heard expressed. The dreams were such: to organize the program, the department, the RE department, and restart the programming that got canceled because of the COVID. Not an easy task. It's just a month since I've been working on it and have had tremendous help from your RE committee. So I am happy to announce that we are reopening our program, and it will be next month. You already heard about the Youth Game Day today. You heard there will be some Valentine's Day activities next Sunday. There are changes in the nursery. All of these were in the announcements. But we will also begin our religious education classes in March. Our 11 through 15-year-old youth will have an opportunity to go through Coming of Age program. This program is one of the cornerstones of UU Faith. It helps youth to explore their own beliefs. They will write their credo statements. They will seek to articulate the elevator speech. And this program also helps them to learn more about the UU Faith, about their values and commitments, and engage in practicing these commitments. They will do community service project, the social justice action project, and learn the difference between the two. They will also have a tour, either virtual or in person, and that all depends on what COVID is doing then, and also on the success of the fundraising efforts. This group will go to Tulsa, Oklahoma, to explore history of racism and the current anti-racism efforts that All Souls congregation is engaging in. And we have opened the enrollment for this program. We are also exploring possibilities together with Westside to provide OWL to our children and youth, and OWL stands for Our Whole Lives, and it is a comprehensive sexuality education program. The details for this program will be posted in the weekly, so keep following. This is still works in progress or in the process. We are working on the program for our younger children. We're planning to reopen adult RE program as well, hopefully also next month at the same time. And then we're still planning the summer program, what that might look like. That's a lot of work, right? But these are all opportunities for you to join in. We would love your help with these dreams. That would be just great if you would like to join in. These are not small dreams, as I've said that already. I'm pretty sure there are more of them, and I probably did not tell all of the dreams here, because we do carry the dreams from the generations from our previous circles, for folks that have been here for a long time. And then we keep dreaming. We keep dreaming more and bigger than before. There will be time in the future to revisit the dreams and see what else comes up in our lives. But for now, in closing, I will say this, that before I leave, I hope to leave a small path for your next DRE, Director of Religious Education, so that person can join in and travel together with you. Until then, there's lots for us to do together to fulfill the dreams and hopes for this community. We got work to do.
I've told you thank you many times for stepping in and helping us for a couple of months until we can get our path going on RE. Now I realize I owe your grandmother a debt of gratitude as well. So I
Yes.
express that publicly here too. Thank you, thank you. And we're going to do the communion of names and
doing it
milestones.
together?
Would you mind lighting the candles of memory and hope as I read the book? This book sits out in our lobby outside the sanctuary door for you to write your stories in, to be read during the service every Sunday. And I have 2 stories to share with you today. Sherry's husband was in the hospital last week with a foot infection, and her meds were not working, and the doctors were trying new procedures. I haven't heard anything more since that announcement over the weekend, but let us continue to keep her in our hearts and our minds. And Dale's husband says the water supply at the home of his parents was restored yesterday. And I said, did it go out because of the ice? And he said, oh no, remember it went out about a week or so before our ice storm this week. So they've been without water for more than a week. So yay, the water is back at Dale's husband's parents' home. And light a 3rd candle for those stories that are not spoken aloud, but live in the hearts of this community as well. Thank you. And just before we go into meditation, I need to tell you that the kitchen crew said, you know, it's potluck and we're never ready on time. Keep talking after the service and keep them busy for a little while, and then come in and we'll have the food ready. Well, as things turn out, we're going to go over today because it's noon now and I'm not finished. So we will be ready at the time the potluck is ready, but those of you who aren't staying for the potluck and may need to go to another appointment, feel free to leave quietly whenever you need to. So let us take a moment now to share in silence the consideration of the stories we've heard today and the stories not yet spoken aloud, because they live in the heart of this community, which is important to us all. I titled this part of the service Countdown to Goodbye. I could have titled it something less final, something sweet like Anything Could Happen, or Come Walk a Ways with Me. But I don't think that's healthy for either one of us. June 26th will be my last time in the pulpit, and I hope it will be a time when we can say goodbye to each other, not just me talking at you. We will miss one another. You'll always miss the familiar, and we have gotten along quite well, I think. But then I will be gone, and you will have a new minister, and we don't know what will happen next, so let's just leave it at that. I've already told you about my goals for the rest of my year: review the mission and change the vision statements, return to previous goals of growth and financial stability, and ready the congregation for a change in leadership. But there's more. I want all of you to have goals as well. I want you to dream the dreams on which the future will have stability. I can help you figure out what that might look like, but they have to be your dreams. Now, I found a workshop a couple of years ago when I went to General Assembly. It was either in New Orleans or Kansas City. I don't remember which one. But this workshop I thought could be very helpful to us, and I kept the details of it. The workshop came out of the Florida district of the UUA, part of our own southern region. And they had 2 handouts at this workshop that I think you might find helpful. And I want to share some of the content with you at this time, more later on and during the rest of this year. The first handout stated boldly, "Things churches should do." And they pulled no punches. The first thing was this: once and for all, get serious about your congregation's purpose. Seeking beauty and truth just does not cut it. Church is more important than that. Well, that fits right in with my first goal. Why are you here? What could you do as a group? We're going to work on this. Now, I'm not going to list all the recommendations this morning. There are about a dozen. I'll just share the ones I think might be helpful to you right now, like this one. Identify unmet needs in your community. You don't have to look far to find someone who needs a helping hand. So it's so true, and let me make the first suggestion. I've put some literature out in the lobby near the pamphlet table about the Reading Partners program. If this sounds familiar to you, it was something we were going to start in March of 2020. It is a way that we might reach out singly or as a group to help children in 2nd and 3rd grades who are struggling with their reading skills. And after some of these shutdowns, it's even worse than it was before. We can help to improve them, because if they don't get reading by 3rd grade, they are lost for the rest of their lives. Jennifer Quick, a local rep with the organization called Reading Partners, will be with me in the pulpit in 2 weeks. So pick up a brochure, and if you've got some time, take the online training course now so that you will be ready to volunteer. I have taken it. I have signed up. Please join me. Look, it's a really nice instructional course that takes about 45 minutes. Here's another idea they had, and this one might shock you, but then I wonder that it should. It says, ask your new members to reach the 5 to 10% giving level. Not 3 like we usually ask for. But why not? They may say, okay. Actually, all members should be asked to do this, 5 to 10%. Why not indeed? I give 10% of my salary back to the church. I always have. And once you consider it, even half that amount, you will wonder why you didn't think of it sooner. Once you just get off the top of your head that it's too big a number, it seldom is. Unless you have some bad bills, some big things on your mind, then you're off the hook. But think about it. The second handout I saved from this workshop is titled The Sacred Diamond of Religious Life, and I think I had Carl take a picture of it that you can put on the screen now. You don't have one? Well, we forgot to do that, but let me describe it to you and we'll put it in the next newsletter. On the vertical axis of this diamond, it's actually a diamond, it says, on each of our religious lives, this model suggests we do two things every week. One, we worship together to do individual soul work, understanding what our relationship to the holy is or should be. That's what we do in worship together. We do our individual soul work, understanding what is important. And on the other end of that diamond is we live our faith values, walking our talk in daily living, individually and in community. So Sunday we work together. During the week we work individually. Same thing, important values. Think about it. We come to church, we live our lives. Our faith should inform both of these activities. And then on the horizontal axis of this diamond, there are two statements. Faith development, an evolving understanding of the self and the beliefs you hold. It doesn't say anything about God or, anything that you might think that religion is. It's about yourself, learning who you are and what beliefs you hold because they're important. And on the other end of that axis is belonging to a transformative community of love that will bring you from me to we. I've preached that sermon before, you know I have. That for me has always been what church is about. Lay member and clergy, to bring me into a we. We find others who think as I think, who value what I value, to work together to make our lives better and to help to build a better world. Now that's a whole life plan right there. The diamond of religious life. If we can't say that this community is here to help you live a religious life, well then we better fix it, starting right now, because the only alternative is to go look for one that does. Please join me in singing our final hymn, 1028 in the Teal hymnal, The Fire of Commitment. Fire, yeah, give yourself a hand. Fire of commitment. Look at it. It's here. It's here. It's all around us. We turn out the lights of memory and hope because we take them in our heart. Our chalice was lit for community. Any last words you have to say? I put you on the spot. There's nothing up there.
Right. I think we're keeping the dreams. We're leaving here holding those dreams with us and keep working on them.
Okay, we take that in our hearts to take home with us. Dr. Seuss said, "Don't cry when it's time to say goodbye. Be happy that it happened and that it's happening now. So may it be in all our lives." Let's go eat.